So for those of you who were here last year, you all know how great Dr. Greg Fitzgerald is. He's a doctor who's been practicing for 35 years, a husband, a father of 3. He trained under Dr. Alec Burton. So for those of you who know the history of the American Natural Hygiene Society, now known as National Health Association, Dr. Burton was truly one of our legends. So we are thrilled to have Dr. Greg Fitzgerald back again to kick off the conference.
Thank you, Linda. Good afternoon, everybody. Have we had a good morning so far? Yes. Do I have a show of hands? Who went on the hike? My wife Dawn went and said it was a blast. Fantastic. Who went on the trolley tour? That was fantastic. I can vouch for that. Love the architecture here. The architecture in the churches and the buildings is just spectacular. And the Cleveland Museum of Art is something else. It really is a special building. And who went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Wow. We were there last year and it was sensational. I'm a real rocker from the 60s. And one of my favourite bands has just recently been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They're a band called the Moody Blues. Have you heard of them? Knights in White Satin. Anyway, we've got to get off trolleys and hikes and rock and roll to talk health. And my topic today is your health is an orchestra. Are you playing all the instruments? And I'd like to ask you here, who's here for the first time at an NHA conference? Welcome. Fantastic. Look at this. You know, this is the greatest health conference in the world, bar none. I don't say that lightly, bar none. You know, I've been to many, and I make the trip with my lovely wife Dawn, who's standing up the back. I make the trip all the way from Sydney over here. Admittedly, we do a little bit of sightseeing and touring. You know, we've hopped from Dallas to San Antonio and went to the Alamo, and you know, may God rest their souls over there in the Alamo, Davy Crockett and Jim Bowie and those guys. And then we went to New Orleans and had a ball there. That was great. So we have to see a bit of America every time we come, and we've got a wonderful country. No doubt about that. My wife Dawn was born here. She was born in New York all those years ago. So, sorry, honey. Not many years ago.
Years ago.
Is there a lawyer in the audience?
Mark Cuban.
He's an ex-lawyer. No, he's still a lawyer, but he's non-practicing. Yeah, but we come over here because the truth is taught here. We first came 30 years ago, in 1988. That was 5 years BC, before children. And then we came the second year in 1989, and then of course we got caught up in my practice and busyness of life, and we couldn't make it back until last year. And it's a beautiful conference because you teach people here the basics, the truth. There's no wool being pulled over people's eyes to buy things and to believe in stuff that's not true. It's focused on the truth. Natural hygiene is the fundamental principle upon which the NHA has been based, formerly the American Natural Hygiene Society, for decades. This is the 70th anniversary of the NHA, or the former Natural Hygiene Movement's anniversary, the 70th anniversary. So this predates a lot of the recent discoveries about intermittent fasting and how wonderful going without food is, and the problems of snacking, and all of this stuff is not new. It's old hat, and it's just vindicating and corroborating what we have known for decades. So I want to also make a point. Over my involvement with natural hygiene for the last 35 years, one thing has become apparent to me, which was also apparent to Dr. Burton, and that is that people tend to focus on one aspect of health. They become specialists. What do you think that aspect of health is?
Food.
Food. It becomes an obsession with people, and they tend to equate diet with health. And this is a fallacy. This is incorrect. Too often in my clinic in Sydney, Australia, I see people coming in who are on good diets. They're on far better than average diets, yet they're chronically unwell. And they're searching for the answers in all the wrong places because they're specialised in one biological need of the human organism. Now you think about this for a minute, my friends. Think, because this is a most important subject. Whether a baby's in utero, developing from the union of the sperm and the egg, it's a microscopic thing. What does it need in order to grow into a 3 kilogram healthy baby 9 months later? What does it need? What's the first thing it needs apart from that miraculous union of the sperm and the cell, which is beyond our understanding? But what's the first thing it requires in order to live?
Energy.
Air.
Energy. Air.
Air. You can't go long without oxygen. Would you agree with me? You wouldn't go much beyond 3 or 4 minutes before there's some brain damage and then ultimately death. What's the next thing it needs? Nutrients from the mother. So it needs food next. Does it need anything else?
Love.
Well, it does. We all need that. That never ends. But it's not a biological need, because you still can give birth without love, tragically. And there are great repercussions, I agree to that. But life at a biological level will still go on. What else does that baby need?
Illumination. Water.
Well, it does need that water. It needs to be hydrated. It will encompass that particular aspect of the biological needs with nutrients. We'll call water a nutrient. Does it need anything else in order to develop into a healthy baby as it exits the birth canal?
Water.
Energy.
Yeah, we've said water.
Energy.
Temperature, right?
Yeah, it does need right temperature. Anything
Energy.
else? What about activity? Can anyone remember when they were pregnant, any ladies in the room, that the baby would start to kick and thump? Or do we only do that in Australia? It needs activity, doesn't it? Now, does it do that activity in the first 2 or 3 weeks of pregnancy? No way. But ultimately, that baby will start to move. It will start to exercise itself in utero. What else does it need in order to grow into a healthy baby?
Sleep.
Sleep and rest. Does it kick 24 hours a day? Hope not. So it needs sleep and rest. So these are what we call our biological needs. But we often just tend to focus on nutrition. Like, who was here last night? Who was here last night? Most of the questions, not all, but most, were about food. And as important as it is, if you put all of your eggs in one basket, you will be disappointed. Now, some years ago, I can recall Dr. Burton's advice to me when I was studying under him. And as I graduated and I realised the truth of hygiene, because it's based on the principles of life, because, see, you understand this, that the needs of health are the needs of life. They're the same thing. If you've got a baby in utero, wants to become healthy, you have to provide that baby with the biological needs of life. And those biological needs of life equate to the biological needs of health. And I remember Dr. Burton said to me, Greg, I'll give you a bit of advice. Don't work too hard. And being a bit stubborn, I ignored him. Because I was of the opinion that you could eat good food and exercise and everything would look after itself. That you wouldn't have any other health issues. And didn't that prove a misconception? Because I started, after about 10 years of intense work with my wife, intense practice, I started getting anxiety. And I didn't know what it was. I thought I was dying. I thought, what? I'm getting physical symptoms, I'm getting tingling in the hands. I started to get dizzy and lightheaded. I started to get, and I don't get headaches. I've had one headache in my life, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. But I started to get a little bit of a heaviness at the back of my head in the occipital area. And I started to have poor sleep. But I was saying to my wife, this is going back many years, I said, how can I feel like this? I eat mainly a plant-based diet. I'm not a vegan, but I tell you what, I'm 24 days out of 28 a vegan. I'm vegan-ish. And I'm fit. I could exercise till the cows come home. Why am I feeling like this? It was because I was ignoring one big section of the orchestra. Now, those that love music like me will know that there are 4 sections to an orchestra. Can anybody guess what they are? Come on. What's the first section, the most important section? The strings. Because the strings have 50% of the musicians. Did you know that? 50% of all the musicians in an orchestra belong to the string section. Then we have the brass section. Then we have the woodwind section. Then we have the percussion section. And then we have the master generator of the beautiful music being the conductor. Now, if we equate that to health, we look at the string section would be our nutrition. Because no one denies it is ultimately important what you put in this aperture called a mouth, which feeds your body, because that enables your structure to be formed. So we call the string section the nutrition. We call the brass section activity, movement. We're designed to move. We call the woodwind section rest and sleep. And we call the percussion section not pushing yourself too hard. We call that in Australia, don't soldier on. Do you ever have that expression here in America, to soldier on? You do have to soldier on. Soldier on means to push yourself in the cause of a higher service or a duty. That's where they get the metaphor from soldiering. Because soldiers sacrifice something for a higher cause, don't they? So we in Australia have been bombarded by advertisements for the last 20 years by a pain-relieving company called Codral to soldier on. There's a big ad on television. Soldier on, soldier on. Doesn't matter if you're sick, doesn't matter if you're in pain, just push yourself. Push on. Life's to be lived. If you have a problem, take a pill and get rid of the problem and soldier on. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the percussion section, is to go through life in a nice rhythm. Don't do what I did and burn out. Even though I was eating good food and I was as fit as a fiddle, Dawn and I would exercise our freckles off every day. And it was too much. You couldn't tell me that then. So what does the conductor do? In an orchestra, we've got to have the strings, we've got to have the brass, the woodwind, the percussion. In our health, we've got to have the good nourishment. We've got to have activity. We must move. We've got to have sleep and rest. We have to have that, otherwise we pay a price. And we have to pace ourselves not to overdo things with our work, etc. But the conductor is our brain, because the conductor has to coordinate everything. The conductor is the one that brings the strings in at the right time. The conductor is the one who brings the brass in at the right time. And the others are listening. Do you know that an orchestra cannot play without a conductor? They're that important. They are the master brains behind that beautiful symphony. If you've ever heard Beethoven's Sixth Symphony, the Pastoral, beautiful, a beautiful flow of music, rhythmical. And that's what our lives should be, folks. Our lives should be like a rhythm. We call that a circadian rhythm. Have you heard of the term circadian? The day and the night? But what we do, unfortunately, in health, and this doesn't apply just to the people here, but it applies to Australia, we all focus on one section of the orchestra. Now, I can recall, and I've written a newsletter about this, and if anyone in the audience would like me to send them the newsletter on email, please give Dawn up the back a little bit of paper with your name clearly printed and your email address, and I'll send you my newsletter. And it's about two people who came to see me some time back. Two ladies, in fact. And one was working for her husband as a dental nurse. He was a full-on dentist, and she was his assistant as a dental nurse. And she was coming in to me for headaches. And I kept imploring her to make some changes to her life, because I could see she was like a Shakespearean play, like almost a Greek tragedy happening. I could see the ending was not going to be good, but she couldn't see it. She had blinkers on. And she'd say to me, "Greg, but I eat good. My diet's good, I'm not unfit." I said, yeah, but you're over pushing yourself. That's why you're getting headaches. I said, I can do work on your neck and do adjustments and give you some temporary relief, but unless we remove the causes, I said, I can't fix it. You've got to work at this yourself, because your headaches are giving you feedback. Your headaches are in fact a protest, saying to change direction, to think about your life. But unfortunately, she came in a number of times, and my wife and I were quite concerned for her. Not long after her last visit, another patient came in and said that the same lady had recently dropped dead in the dental studio of a stroke.
Whoa. Wow.
60 years of age. And Dawn and I felt very sad about that. And I've written an article about that, a newsletter, with some lessons for us to learn. Because I'm sure in the States, the same as in Australia, people get very stressed here. Is that true or not?
Yes.
Generally speaking, or am I in the wrong country here? And I do know that you've got problems with the opioid addictions, huge. Trump has just called it a national emergency about a year ago, the opioid addictions. We've got the same problem. We've got mental health is a huge thing in Australia. Depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, it is huge and growing. And one of the reasons is because people don't understand the orchestra of health. They tend to regard their bodies and their spirits as having indefatigable energy. And this is something that I've learned myself over the years, When I started practicing 35 years ago, as I said, we worked hard, real hard, and we exercised hard. And our diets were good, We didn't drink caffeine, we didn't drink alcohol, we didn't smoke. Our diets were very, very excellent. They weren't as good as they are now, but they were very good. And we were lean and fit. And yet I suffered. Dawn suffered. Dawn got pneumonia and fasted 17 days in our home under my supervision because she was so sick. But these were big lessons for us. And one thing I can recall was I was sitting down years ago with Dawn and I'm bemoaning the fact that I've got this anxiety and I'm dreading going to work and I'm not sleeping well. And I'm thinking, what's going on, you know? And she said, Greg, she said, you must understand that your anxiety is teaching you something. It's teaching you that you can't keep doing what you're doing. Because if you keep pushing yourself like you did when you were 25 and 30, you will hit the wall, which you're doing now. And she's a wiser lady than me. She's wise, beyond my wisdom. And I said, you're right. I said, you're right. I'm regarding my energy levels as something that I had when I was 25. And you can't keep pushing your energy indefinitely like that as you get older. Because health management, once you get past 40 years of age, health management becomes energy management. Energy management. And that's why when people come to me as patients and they've got all sorts of problems, you know, cancer, heart disease, they've had strokes, autoimmune illnesses, asthma, migraines, you know, all sorts. My first job is to try and get them to have more energy. Because you know what, folks? There's no healing without energy. And if someone comes to me and they've got a low level of energy, my job is to help them become healthier. Unless I can advise them and guide them so that their energy lifts naturally, not stimulated energy I'm talking here. I'm talking a natural energy. If I do not do that, they will not improve in the long term. They may improve the condition for which they're coming by some treatments or whatever. But the general toxicity level and the general enervation means a depletion of vitality. The general enervation level leading to an increased toxemic state of the organism will ultimately lead to another disease. And their health will not improve long term. They will not improve their all-cause mortality. So the first thing you have to do if you're looking at, let's say, the string section, you want to improve your nutrition, my first question to people is, not are they a vegan, not are they a vegetarian, not even are they plant-based. If I said that to most Australians, they would laugh at me. Because they're all chopping down chops and steaks and eggs and oysters and beer and blah, blah, blah. Talk about plant-based to the average Aussie, I may as well talk Swahili. The first thing is I've got to start getting them feeling better. So what's the first thing I would recommend? Well, I'll tell you what I recommend in the nutritional aspect of it. Because this is a nutritional, synergistic thing. Working together. Get them off the stimulants which give them a false sense of energy. Because that's what it does. Caffeine, coffee, tea, chocolate, alcohol, tobacco. These things are stimulants. And they are false stimulants because they don't give us energy. They actually take energy from us. But people are under the misguided apprehension that they think they're getting energy by having a cup of coffee. It's not their energy. It is stolen energy. The body has to use energy to detoxify the chemical which gives them this euphoric lift for a few minutes. And then you've got to wait a certain number of hours before the caffeine leaves the body, and that's called the half-life. And in caffeine's instance, you're talking between 3 and 10 hours before 50% of the caffeine leaves the body. So if they have another cup of tea or coffee later, they never, ever, ever go a day without having caffeine circulating in their blood, ever. And that is perennially stimulating them. And one thing I find in my clinic over the last 35 years is this. When people drink coffee and tea and eat chocolate or drink soft drinks like Coke and Pepsi, and they do it regularly, they get a pain under the skull, under the occiput, right here. Could you stand up for me, please, madam? They get a pain under the skull in the occipital region, suboccipital, just in there, right under that section here. And this area here, this plexus of nerves, gets really irritated over a period of years, thank you, by this continual imbibing of caffeine. In Australia now, caffeine has almost become a food. It's almost up there with protein. Everybody's drinking coffee. They come into my clinic drinking it. Serious. I've got to get a court injunction to get it out of their head. Everywhere they're walking around, you see kids going to school with V drinks and energy drinks. No wonder everybody's wired. They start wired, they go to bed wired. My God, what's going on? So the first thing I say is, look, are you willing to follow these principles for 1 week, 7 days? Get off the stimulants. Don't worry about veganism. Not yet. That'll come. 1 step at a time. And then they come back and say, oh, Greg, I couldn't believe it. The first 2 or 3 days, you were right. I got this terrible headache. I felt my back was sore, my head was sore. I got a headache. I get the jitters. I could have killed you. True. I say, yeah, I know. I told you. I send people a sheet called The Effects of Caffeine. I did it last year here. Sent some people a sheet. Send it to you again. Just give their email and I'll send it out to you. I give it to all my patients, The Effects of Caffeine. And then they say, you know what, Greg? After the first 2 or 3 days, I can't believe it. I've got more energy. This is 7 to 10 days later. In people that have been imbibing coffee and tea for decades sometimes. Truly. But some other wonderful things happen as well. They say, I'm also calmer. And that's calmer with a C, not with a K. Because they're already getting their calmer. So they say, I'm more calm. I'm not as moody. I'm not as snappy. I feel I'm sleeping even better, Greg. I go, well, what's you? You've just taken out the psychostimulants. You've taken out the irritants, because the word stimulant really means irritant to the nervous system. And then you can start going onto the diet, which we do. We say, now look, getting off the stimulants, you're already feeling a bit better and you're still on the old diet. They say, yeah. I say, you want to feel even better? Yeah. Okay. Now let's get off dairy food. Let's eat animal protein, not 3 or 4 times a day, once a day. Just come once a day, 1 meal a day. Can you do that? Yeah, I can do that, no problem, they say. Because if you tell someone to go vegan, mountain too high. Mountain too high initially, unless they're dying. That's different. And then you say, now eat more vegetables. Salads, steamed vegetables, potatoes, sweet potato, corn on the cob, zucchini, carrots, fruits, papaya, nuts, seeds, legumes, chickpeas. And then Dawn comes in. She comes in with the brass section. And she tells them how to prepare their food and stuff like this. And so it's a gradual thing. And then when they've done that, they're jumping out of their skin after a couple of weeks. They start to feel better. Even terminal cancer patients, my friends, start to feel better. Now, I'm not saying they're healed. I'm not saying they've reversed their disease, but they start to live better, sleep better, feel better, suffer less nausea with chemo, etc. And they tell me this all the time. And then you've got the energy available for them to start doing what? They bring the brass section in. And the brass section is walking. Start walking. I said last night, the muscle group that is most closely related to your longevity is what group of muscles? Remember from last night? The quadriceps. These ones. So we need to walk. We need to step. Now if you can't do that, you do what you can do. You do what you can do. You swim. You move. You do what you can do. Dawn and I have done a lot of activities in our lives. You know, done gym work, we've done tennis, golf, working, we're avid workers, etc. Gardening. But there's one exercise that I would not give up unless I was forced to physically. And it's not the gym, it's not tennis. I love tennis. I'm playing Joel on Sunday with Anthony. Got to get back on him from last year when he whacked me. What exercise would Dawn and I give up the last one? Would be walking. Walking, my friends. We are a bipedal animal. That means 2 legs to walk. We are meant to walk. Now, I know Americans don't walk far. When I say to someone here in New Orleans, I said, look, can you tell me where Frenchman Street is? You heard of Frenchman Street or Bourbon Street? They go, oh man, it's too far, it's 3 blocks down the road. 3 blocks? It's a hop, skip and a jump. Because we're meant to walk, and when you walk and you do this regularly, you exercise every muscle in your body, including your shoulder blades and your neck, believe it or not. But you've got to walk like that. If you walk like this, you won't exercise the neck muscles. You have to move. And this is a rhythm. This is a rhythm, a rhythmical movement. Exercise has to be done. Now, here's the thing. When you're exercising, I'll ask this question. Is exercising good or bad? I'll ask it again. Is exercising good or bad?
Good. Depends.
It depends on context. And who is the determinant of the context? It's the conductor. Because here's the deal. If the conductor, that is your brain, brings in the brass section too untimely at the wrong time, the symphony orchestra sounds terrible. And people are going, that sounds discordant. That doesn't sound harmonious. So your brain, which has been given to you by nature to think and make proper decisions for your own life and health, has to bring in the brass section, the exercise section, appropriately. Too many people, they get up every day and they think they have to exercise every day. This is a false thing to believe in. We don't exercise every day. Why would that be? Why do you think we don't exercise every day? Anyone got any ideas?
Overtraining. Give the muscles a chance to rebuild. That's why you do upper body one day, lower the next.
Maybe that's true. Give the body a chance to rebuild. But what am I listening to when I say I'm not exercising today?
Your brain says.
I'm listening to my body. Because sometimes I might be working too hard. I might have had a sleepless night with the dogs next door barking and I haven't had a good sleep and I wake up tired. And I've got to think. I don't want to push myself because that's a part of soldiering on. That's a form of pushing ourselves, folks. Similarly, I'll ask the question, is a plant-based, whole food, plant-based diet good or bad? You're not too quick to answer that one. And then again, I know the answer basically is yes, it's good. And I agree with you as a basic principle. But you know what? We have to ask context. Because what happens if you come home from work one day and you're shaking and you've got the flu and you're perspiring, you've got a throbbing headache, temperatures through the roof? Is it a good idea to have a plant-based dinner?
That's not that any dinner.
That's it. Best not to have any dinner because the conductor, the brain says, I'm sick. I don't need food because my appetite's gone. I'm not hungry here because that's hunger. Someone today on the trolley tour said he's hungry for lunch. And I said, where do you feel your hunger? He said, here. I said, listen to the talk this afternoon. It's not there, it's here. That's hunger. If you read Dr. Furman's great book, Eat to Live, and all the books he has written after that, he talks on two different types of hunger, genuine hunger, which is here, and toxic hunger, which is here. So if you're not feeling well, if you're not feeling up to eating, it's a crime against your body to eat, because it doesn't need it and it becomes toxic, even if it's good food, because there's no enzymes being elaborated properly for its digestion because you're not hungry. And it will sit there like a bolus of dirty, inanimate food and cause you problems, even though it's good food. Why? Because it's not eaten appropriately. And this is one reason why we have so many health issues in all around the world, America, Australia, New Zealand, England, Europe, is because people have lost touch with themselves. They never listen to their bodies. They listen to someone else. They listen to a supposed expert who says you need to eat 5 or 6 times a day. You need to exercise every day. You need to drink 8 glasses of water a day. Well, I say rubbish to that, because I know me better than anyone else knows me. And here we have Linda Ayotte. Linda's sitting here. And you know who the best doctor in the world is for Linda? Dr. Linda. Dr. Linda. Not the only doctor, but certainly no one knows when Linda's hungry, tired, energetic, drowsy, whatever, but her. And your body is your hero if you regard it as such. If you don't, just treat it as a garbage dump like most people in the Western world, and you'll suffer health issues. And that's what we're doing today right through the world. We're being led by people who do know very little about health, being medical doctors. They know very little about it. They're not taught it. Our daughter was here last year, Emily. She came with us and she loved it. She would love to be here, but she's just completing her dietetic training and dietetic degree. And she's been with a guy now for 5 years who's just about to graduate as a medical doctor. He will become one of the greats, mark my words. You will be hearing him talk on this podium here one day in the next few years, mark my words. All right? But he hasn't learned anything about health at university. You know what he's been taught at university to encourage men to do to get healthier? 2 things. True story. This is the extent of the health education in Australia for medical doctors. Number 1 was to not smoke, and number 2 was to wear a condom. That's it. That's it. Everything else is going to be all right. No problem. So he comes home to my place for the first date 5 years ago, taking our daughter out, and he walks into our house. And he's looking around for the steaks, and he's looking around for the milk, and the cheese, and the white bread, and the alcohol, and the coffee, and the tea. And this house is weird. And then he asks my daughter, he says, "Who's your family medical doctor?" And she said, "Well, I haven't got one." He said, "Well, who was the last doctor you went to?" She said, "I've never been." He said, "Hang on, come again, say that again." And she said, "Well, I've never been to a medical doctor." And he said, "Well, what do you do when you get sick?" She said, "I go to Dr. Ben." He has been educated at our house. He would love to be here, but he's just graduating as we speak as a doctor. But he can't wait to get out and tell the truth. Yay! Isn't that fantastic? Now, I'm not against Western medicine, don't get me wrong. I play sport with some doctors, and I have some friends who are doctors, and patients who are medical doctors. But I've got to be honest, their training in health is abysmal. Abysmal. Because they don't study nutrition, number 1, in any degree. They don't understand fasting. They don't understand the true nature of the biology of health. That our body is an intelligent organism. It's not designed unintelligently. But you've got to listen to it. And I'm stunned, even to this day, I'm repeatedly stunned by how many people I see at my clinic who never, ever think about their health. They just do what the person in front of them does. And when they fall apart, they go to a doctor who gives them more pills, which they then fall apart more later on. And this is what happens, my friends, all around the Western world, because the pharmaceutical companies, as Dr. Marcia Engels said in her book, The Truth About the Drug Companies, the drug companies now own the FDA. That's for sure. She calls them in bed together. And we're not going to get hygiene taught in a medical curriculum ever, because there's no money in going to Dr. Bed. There's no money in stopping eating for a couple of days or even going a meal without food. You come home from work and you're feeling really whacked and you're not hungry. You're better off not having any dinner and going to bed early, and you wake up with an appetite. You wake up hungry again because you've listened to your body. And when we educate people like this in Australia, they go, wow, Greg, I can't believe this is so common sense. And I've never had any professor of medicine ever challenge me on this. Truly, ever. Because you can't challenge this sort of fundamental truth. It is what we call axiomatic. It is a self-evident truth. Hygiene is based on self-evident truths. And so, my friends, look at this weekend, this 3 days you've got. Today is Saturday, Sunday. If you're staying for the 3 days, look at this as a learning curve for you. Start to think outside the box. The biggest risk factor for chronic disease and early death, the biggest risk factor is not smoking, it's not drinking a lot of alcohol, it's not heroin. The biggest risk factor is living conventionally. It's just doing what everybody else does. That is the biggest risk factor of all. When you start to step outside the box and start to march to the beat of your own drum and think about your health and think about the biological needs you have, you start to get in touch with your own needs and you start to become healthier. This is the truth. This is why we come to the States. Because the truth will never die. As a great wit once said 100 years ago, when it comes to truth, there's always more supply than demand. The truth is out there, but people don't want to know it too much. There's a lot of supply, but little demand. But here we have a lot of demand. Open your mind, question things. Start to think about your body. Start to think about those 4 sections of the orchestra. The strings being your nutrition. And by nutrition, I mean anything that goes in the aperture. Your coffee, your tea, your alcohol, drinking too much fluid, all of this stuff. Eating when you're not hungry. It's not just what you eat, it's how you eat. It's eating mindfully and chewing the food. I have people coming to my clinic, they don't even chew their food. They may as well have no teeth. As soon as it's in the mouth, it's in the stomach. It's like this. They're like a walking, talking incinerator. Just always putting food in, never thinking about it. And when they fall apart and they start to get, fibromyalgia, they never think that it's because they've been eating half a cow every night. They never think of that. And the doctor says, oh, no, food's got nothing to do with that. We just had a lady come in recently with Crohn's disease, 45 years old. She'd suffered for 20 years since she was 25. Not Crohn's disease is? Yeah. And she was in a real bad way. She was hemorrhaging every day to the point where she would often end up in a wheelchair because she couldn't walk because that would make the hemorrhaging worse. Blood would just dribble down her legs. True story. She used to walk around the house and she used to pat the blood up. That's no exaggeration. And she was told that her diet had nothing to do with her Crohn's disease. By the age of 50, she was told she would be in a wheelchair permanently, probably with half her bowel removed. She lived right nearby me, so I could go to her place every day. Yeah. There are miracles waiting in this room. Because you know what? Everyone in this room I know something about. I know something about every one of you, and that is that you have an intelligently directed body. And with that intelligent direction comes intelligent rejection. Intelligent direction is followed by intelligent him. He's got to go his own journey, but he's 20. Now our 3 kids, they can abuse themselves today. They can drink milkshakes, they can eat steaks, they can eat chops and eat chocolate, and they can still wake up tomorrow feeling pretty good. I can't do that anymore, can you? More's the pity. But when I was that age, I could do it too. I could abuse myself, write myself off, beat the rubbish, go to bed, sleep 10 hours like a bear, wake up, let's get into it again. But you know what I'm against is this perennial one answer to your health problems instead of looking at the whole orchestra. And ask yourself, are you providing your body with the proper conditions for health? Are you providing your body with the conditions of the string section, which is good nutrition and good beverages when you're thirsty? Are you providing your body the brass section with the activity when you've got the energy? Not flooding yourself like this when you haven't got the energy. Don't do that. I tried that. It doesn't work. It just makes me more innovative. Getting enough rest and sleep. Because that's where health is built, in rest and sleep. That's where you get your energy back. That's where you start to repair broken DNA strands. It can lead to cancer if you don't do that. That's why they're now realising that sleep deprivation is one of the main causes of cancer. And people are sleeping less today than they've ever slept before. Seriously. One of the questions I ask all my patients, what time do you go to bed? What time do you get up? Do you sleep okay? And when they say they sleep terribly, I know we've got a problem here. Houston, we have a problem. The first question Dawn and I ask each other every morning upon arising, every morning without fail, is, how did you sleep? Because it sets the day. It sets it up. And that's why we believe in having a nap. The Blue Zones have naps. They're the longest lived cultures on earth. There's 5 of them. 5 different areas of the world live longer and healthier than we do, and they all have naps. They all have rests called siestas. And you know what the word nap stands for? N-A-P? No aging prematurely. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure sharing this with you all the way from down under. I think I've spoken enough. If we have time for questions for a couple of minutes, I'm glad to take them. I'm not even sure what the time is. Do we have got a few minutes for questions? If anyone's got any questions on those issues I've raised, I'll do my best to answer them to the best of my ability. Yes, ma'am.
You might be disappointed I have a food question, but I'm wondering, how did you prepare for your cross-planetary travel to get here?
How did we prepare? We prepared just by looking after ourselves and living healthily as we do anyway. But when we arrived in Dallas, we were both tired, so we didn't flog ourselves and go out and push. We never drank coffee or tea to give us a false level of energy. We got to bed early and we just rested if we couldn't sleep because our time zones are completely out of whack. So we relied on our bodies to get that adjustment naturally by eating when we're hungry, not drinking junk and not flogging ourselves, and now we're okay, no problem. Yes?
How can you educate the medical professionals to know more about health and hygiene and nutrition?
How can we help the medical profession to know more about health and hygiene? Look, this is the perennial question in all the countries of the world. This is a real problem because it is so entrenched. It is hard to believe that we're in 2018 and we are still as stupid as we are around the world when it comes to treating disease. It is hard to believe that there's been very little change since Dr. Shelton spoke 60, 70 years ago, and since Dr. Troll gave his Smithsonian Institute talk in 1862, It's hard to believe that there's been very little change. I've got the book by Dr. Trawl called The True Healing Art. I've read it cover to cover many times. If you can get hold of it, get it. It's a talk he gave at the Smithsonian Institute in 1862. You know why he gave it? Dr. Trawl, T-R-A-L-L. He gave the talk because he was fasting patients with cholera and typhoid and measles and all the diseases, the infectious diseases, and he was not getting the same death rate that his colleagues were getting. They were having 25 to 33% death rate. My friends, listen to this. This is 1840, 50 onwards. Trawl said this is wrong. And he was one of the founders of the natural hygiene movement, Dr. Russell Thackeray Trawl. And he said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm killing the people. They're dying it's like a plague. He said, I'm going to give them a sugar pill and tell them to rest. And he found they would get better. They wouldn't die of cholera. They wouldn't die of typhoid or typhus fever. And then he said, I'm not even going to give them the sugar pill. I'll give them water. And all of his colleagues said, what's this turkey doing? He's got all these successes. What's he doing differently? What's in the water? What drugs are he using? He said, I'm not using any drug. I'm letting the body heal itself by going to bed. And they said to him, would you do a talk at the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. to hundreds of the medical profession? He said, my word. And the whole book, The True Healing Art, is an actual word-by-word transcript of the talk. And he asks the question, how long can this keep going on? How long can we keep poisoning people in the name of health? He asked the question which Shelton asked, which Tilden asked, which Burton asked, which Huberman asked. He asked the question, if drugs make healthy people sick, how in God's name can they make sick people healthy? And we're still battling the same mentality, my friends.
So how can we change that?
We can't. You've got to change yourself. Because here's what I've learned. You do the bit as an advocate for your family and your friends and yourself. Because guess what? You can't change anyone but you anyway. Here's the deal. A saying that I have written on my study wall is this. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. I'll say it once more. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. If you try and talk people into this, you're losing them. Do not do that. Come together like you've done. And look, what this has been, this will be a fantastic 3 days. All the speakers are so good, honestly. And we owe Mark and Wanda a debt of gratitude for bringing them in.
One more question.
Okay,
Up the back.
Right here.
I got a question.
Right to the back. Go ahead.
Up the back.
I got somebody else.
Somebody.
Down.
Up there.
Go ahead.
What's the appropriate amount of sleep?
Look, I don't want to be rude, but have you been listening? Forgive me. Answer your own question. This is what I'm saying. The conductor, that's the brain. Think. When I'm working hard mentally with patients and my life is busy with 3 kids who have boyfriends, girlfriends coming in and out, we've got a dog to walk, I've got a house to maintain. You know what it's like. You get burned out, you get tired. I need more sleep. When I'm tired, I need more sleep. If I'm playing tennis for 2 hours, I'll need a bit more sleep. So I'll often have the nap, NAP of an afternoon. Dawn and I often have a nap. Often. 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes, sometimes 60. Not every day, but often. Because sleep is like food. When do you eat food? When you're hungry. When do you drink fluid? When you're thirsty. When do you have sex? When you feel like it. All of this goes on. It's all designed to be unique to you. So when the doctor says to you, you need to eat 6 times a day, ask him, do you know me, doctor? Do you know what I do? Do you understand context? Because you cannot quantify these particular biological needs for every individual. It relies on context. You know, our sleep has to vary. Sometimes we need more. When I'm fasting, I did 7 days recently. And when I fasted for the first couple of days, I slept most of the 2 days. Just slept. So everything varies according to the individual unique situation. Right? You are unique, as Dr. Burton used to say. You are unique just like everybody else. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Cheers for Greg Fitzgerald.